The old man Bill. The old man Bill.
Well, I got something in news that was exciting, right? Since it just happened and everything. They got our astronauts back from the space station.
Yeah. I saw
How
that.
crazy is that? They went there for a week and ended up there for like almost a year.
Is that a space station that was underwater in a swimming pool, or is that the other one?
No, this is the International Space Station, the one that's like in outer space.
I didn't know there was one of those.
Well, maybe there's not, but
Yeah. NASA has actually been sued by the whole town that it's based around, and they still put out this fake stuff, for the record.
Well, I mean, not everything's fake. Listen, we got satellites up there, and they're not saying that that the space station is outside of the Van Allen belt or anything like that. Like it's just orbiting our planet, Yeah. So, I mean, I take everything with a grain of salt, but that sounds plausible to me.
I have no doubt that there's technology up there, but I have yet to see any NASA footage that does not show any kind of green screen glitch. Let me put it that way.
So you're saying you don't believe there's a space station?
I believe there's a satellite, but I've yet to see any evidence that shows no issues of green screen or floating upside down in a swimming pool kind of movement.
Yeah, I'm not with you on that. I think that space.
Yeah, I mean, it just seems like we know definitively that a lot of our stuff and our technology comes from the same exact thing that's being claimed here. So I just wouldn't see the benefit to lying about that, And it's not even like any one country could claim, is up there claiming like, oh, we're better than you because look at what we're doing and we did it. It's literally the International Space Station. So
yeah, but it would be cheaper to keep people on the ground.
Oh, it's always cheaper.
Yeah, well, right.
That's they can use
guess what? Obviously, it's cheaper because we sent somebody up there. We sent people up there that got stranded and we couldn't get them for months. So if money is not an object and challenge is not an object, then I mean, they would have been back a day later.
I can't say either way whether for a fact, but I just don't believe that. So
that's fair. Listen, you're entitled to it. I
mean, they got those little robot things from different countries on the moon right now. I mean, isn't there literally a Chinese robot on the moon, like a rover?
I have no idea. Actually,
how'd they make it past the Van Allen belt with it?
Well, that's the whole thing. I think the whole Van Allen belt was full of it. Is what I think they did.
But once you get past the Van Allen belt, you're in 5D again. Things open up. You just wouldn't normally see it. I do believe astronauts were in space. Because the few interviews that I've heard, they talk about things that shouldn't really have existed. If that makes sense.
Well, I mean, we know that people have been to at least space because things that are old technology at this point have done that. Like even the SR-71 Blackbird flies in like the upper realms of space to the point where, if you flew one of those things on a mission, you ended up becoming an astronaut. So, like that's dead serious truth there.
What do they say, 70,000 feet or something like that? Or is it higher?
Oh, it's higher than that.
Yeah, it's like right on the edge.
Yeah. They flew an airplane in space, God bless America.
Did you see the cameras on the edition before the SR-71? Like I was watching a special on it, and the cameras are bigger than the body of a person. Like the lens of it, it's huge.
Right. Well, they need it to be able to do reconnaissance from that high up. It's
well, it's
massive
impressive
aperture on it.
Yeah.
You know what was up? something else that was like that in the original moon landings. We are told that the air tanks, they carried a certain amount of oxygen. I don't know if you've ever been scuba diving, but you can see the difference in the size that the NASA claimed they compressed so much air down to compared it to our tank. There's no way in hell. Let me just say that.
Well, I think that they have ways of recycling the oxygen. Like, and
For 24 hours.
Wasn't that the whole point of Apollo 13, the movie? They had to recycle the oxygen because there wasn't enough, and then they had to take all the parts from around the whole ship to do it.
Yeah, something like that.
That's fine if you're on the ship. What if you're outside the ship?
Yeah, well, they didn't have any more than 30-something minutes on their tanks. They go jumping around the moon.
No, they claimed they had like a day's worth or something stupid.
Well,
I don't buy that. They had to come back to the ship right away. I remember that.
I mean, not for anything. Like, what do you think's more inhospitable? The upper atmospheres / space of Earth, or the depths of the sea? Because I'm going on a limb and I'm saying the depths of the sea
I'm there with you.
is the more inhospitable environment, by large and every single time. And, not for anything, like, not that we go all the way to the bottom all the time with big vessels, but we have nuclear submarines, rolling at deep, deep depths in communication with an unlimited power supply, unlimited oxygen.
Yeah.
Period. So
if you have the technology, they're both accessible. It's just whether or not we do have the technology. And I know we do. It's just I don't think that people like NASA have it. I think it's mostly black ops and black budget projects that have all this money to play with, like teleportation and stargates and ships and all that stuff.
Oh, I'm not arguing that at all. I don't think NASA has the best technology by any stretch anymore. I think that there was probably a time where they were more interlinked with the higher realms of technology, when it was more relevant during the Cold War, when there was some kind of competition that was ongoing. And honestly, if you want to talk about a fake moon landing, I mean, that I could kind of buy, because at the end of the day, we were pretty far behind the Russians, and we were in the midst of the Cold War and all sorts of crises, and there was no better victory than beating them to the moon, and if it wasn't feasible to do in reality, we might as well tell them we did.
Yeah. Well, I can tell you from a spiritual perspective, if there's any places you want to avoid, it's the moon and military bases.
Okay, well, that screws me. I got 2 military bases right next to me. So,
and you'd love to go to the moon.
Yeah, I want to see this fat body fly. You know what I mean? Let's go to the moon. I would be doing.
Yeah, if you leave your body, don't go to those places. You will be destroyed in multiple ways.
So, elaborate on that.
Have you seen the show The Magicians?
I didn't hear you.
Have you seen the show The Magicians?
No.
Okay, it's kind of like a more mature version of Harry Potter, right? Where in some cases they'll show you what they call wards, or symbolic cages that you can wrap around buildings so that nothing else can get in. Right? You understand that concept?
Sure.
Using symbols as walls. There are places on the moon that have those symbols. And the only way to get through them is to literally turn space inside out, which you shouldn't do, because there are some technologies up there that we're not supposed to know about. And military bases have 24/7 psychic wardens who do nothing but walk around in the astral bodies. And they are extremely skilled at destroying your astral body.
That was in the that wasn't like the gateway document, but that was sort of the case.
Yeah. They know how this stuff works, and they've known it for a long time. They've mastered it completely. They really have. The only thing they don't really understand is certain techniques on how to fold time and how to fold space. It's like, the Marvel movies where they have the pocket dimension. You can create one of those as a tunnel through wardens, or as a tunnel through wards.
Interesting.
So, anyway, I don't have much astral experience, but I will not go near those places.
That's fair, but like how time and space work in relation to astral bodies. I mean, technically, those types of things, they wouldn't necessarily be just simply by military bases. What you have like a high degree of expansion, you're basically opening up a portal at that point. That's sort of what it is. So anytime you have an open portal, you're kind of leaving a huge opening for all sorts of crap to find its way through. If you kind of let it, like things could hijack a ride back, so to speak, or kind of play with you while you're there. But in that CIA report, I mean, that was kind of interesting stuff because they more or less said that since they were so successful in it, that one of the things that they did, at least at the time, was try to use vigilance in the astral realm by having, like, more or less they try to militarize the astral plane.
Yeah, they have done that pretty much.
Yeah,
but it's a very low version of the astral. Like, it's basically the TV show Strangers, where they call it the Upside Down.
yeah.
It's like a darker version of this reality. Like, the same buildings are there, but it's just you're one notch into it. There's higher astral realms.
Yeah, right. I mean, I'm familiar with the lower astral realm. Sure.
Yeah, that's where they do have control in those spaces, and the moon is part of one of those spaces.
Interesting.
Okay. But it's a good segue actually into what was I going to say? Shields and protection and permission slips. You still there?
Yeah, permission slips? What do you mean?
My mom ain't signing nothing. She don't like it.
Yeah.
And she definitely ain't writing me a fucking check.
No.
Okay, we're back.
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay, it's a good segue into permission slips, which is important to protect your spiritual body. So if you don't mind, I'd like to go into that for a minute.
Yeah, go right ahead.
Sure.
So whenever you buy a product that has a warning label, whether it's alcohol, cigarettes, food, there's gluten or there's chemicals or whatever, every time you allow something into your physical body and you consume it, energetically speaking, you're creating a portal that other entities can latch onto to get into you. Because you've allowed this type of toxin. If they resonate with that type of toxin, they can take over. That's how we end up being like possessed. That's the only real way to do it, because free will is still an important part of this universe in that sense.
That explains why everybody's so messed up in California, Nathan. It's because they put a warning label on everything, and everything causes you all sorts of harm.
Yeah, it's one of the tricks they use. So
The only one they don't do it is plastic surgery because there must not be a warning label on that. Everybody looks like fake Ken, fake Barbie.
oh god,
You want to see something? You want to see something interesting?
it's going to be disgusting and horrible, isn't it?
Oh no, never mind. Oh no, hold on. So I have right. So this is
Oh dear.
regular ass pipe tobacco, right? I don't really smoke all too often, but I put a little in a pipe every so often, just like whatever.
Okay.
So you know how and I don't smoke cigarettes at all, but cigarettes have like a massive warning on them that they're
Yes.
gonna like kill you. Period. Like, in fact, I don't even think you can see the branding on cigarettes anymore because the warning is so big. I think that they're not even allowed. Like, how they even know what what pack is what pack? I don't know, but whatever. It's besides the point. So I was like, I don't even think there's a warning on this at all. At all. Right. And then I was looking at it and I was like, yeah, there's like no warning. But then there was. It was like a little tiny warning.
All right.
And the little tiny warning says that it's dangerous in California. Nowhere else. But that's exactly what I was saying. Like,
That's interesting.
good news is I'm not in California, so this is perfect. This is
That's
good for your health.
fine for you.
Yeah, right. It's fine for me. But if you're in California, don't it's going to cause you all sorts of hell and havoc.
Oh yeah.
Cigarettes is one of those things that for a long time doctors would support. And they would say, you should smoke 4 a day if you want to have bigger lung capacity, like going back 50, 60 years. But the thing is, there are actually benefits to the compound we call nicotine.
Oh, there are.
It's just the other stuff that they add to the nicotine that makes it superbly deadly, like formaldehyde and different carcinogens and stuff.
Mm.
That's the stuff that's dangerous.
So that's what's interesting. They don't do any of that with this, which is probably why it doesn't have to have that huge warning label on it.
Right.
This right because all this is natural leaf that they like steam and ferment and then flavor or whatever they do and then shred it. And that's it. That's the whole start to finish process.
Yeah. There's a brand we get here. I think it's called American Spirit or Native Spirit or something like that.
Oh yeah, that's an American brand, brother.
I know it is, but do you have them? Is that a big thing over there? Those ones?
I mean, again, I don't smoke, so I can't say if it's big or popular or whatever, but they sell them everywhere, so I would assume.
Okay. The only ones I really know that are definitely American were the Marlboros, and I know that from the guy in the X-Files, the smoking man or whatever he calls him.
Yep.
The Marlboro man.
Yep. They did away with him in the 90s.
Hmm.
That and the Miles catalogs. I used to love ripping Miles off the packs of cigarettes and being like, yeah, come on, smoke a couple more so I could get a new tent.
Yeah.
I always thought it was inconsiderate to try to put a fucking kayak in a Marlboro catalog. I'm like, man, if you smoking enough to get this kayak, there ain't no way you paddling this thing. I'm sorry.
Wow, way off the rails.
I was taking a drink when you said that, and my nose is now flooded. Bad time.
Listen, if you know, you know, man. The Miles catalog was the stuff. My dad used to smoke like a chimney, and I used to play like ice hockey and do all this stuff. I think every trip I ever took when I was a kid, like my clothes were packed in like a Marlboro bag. My hockey gear was in a Marlboro bag. Everything was in a Marlboro bag.
That's funny.
The best quality stuff out there too, man. You couldn't kill that stuff.
Military grade.
For real. Like triple thick nylon, double stitched. I mean, those bags outlast everybody who's ever gotten one.
Yeah, so anyway, all those things come down to your belief systems. Because if you believe that cigarettes aren't harmful, you're imprinting the cigarettes when you're smoking them. to be not harmful. And there's plenty of people that have proven this. Like they're smoking 60 pack or 60 cigarettes a day, and they're living to 90, 95, 100 years old, and they're fine. It's like, I smoke like a train, I drink Guinness like it's a fish, and I'm fine. I'm the one that's going to decide when I die. Fuck off.
I've known a lot of people like that. That happens to be very true.
Yeah. The power of all those warning labels is the suggestion of it. It's the idea. Once the idea gets into your head, that's another permission slip. That is when it starts attacking you. So,
right, it's the opposite effect of putting the nice words into water.
Yeah. It all comes down to controlling what you believe, controlling what you see, controlling what you feel. Or reframing it in some cases. In this case, reframing it. Yeah, it's an important part of that journey into spiritual ascension, which it's a big thing, but it all comes down to you are the one in control of reality. You just have to remember it. And the more you open yourself up to these higher realms, the more you do remember it. It's like you were saying, Joe, with the Kundalini. You knew things you just couldn't understand. Your brain can't even understand them, but it's still in there. You know it's true.
Yeah, and then once I did understand for what it's worth, I mean, that was like a crisis scenario.
Yeah.
I was like, everything I know is a lie. Everything I thought I knew, rather, is a lie. I should say it that way.
Wow.
Yeah, that was fun. Brought me right to this path.
That's what I mean. There's a lot of those. It's like the red pill. You can take the red pill or the blue pill. Once you take one,
What, you've been watching Benny's channel?
Yeah, don't bring that up.
I have no idea what that means.
Yeah, it's an inside joke.
Okay.
Oh, that's just a terrible joke.
I mean, listen, peace and love. Everybody knows.
That's the key.
The intent is from such a good place of humor. It's from such a good place of humor. That's it.
Oh man.
You were saying before about certain things being proven, like telepathy. Prayers are another thing that's been proven. I don't know if you know that. The prayers actually have a physiological effect on people. They've measured that in labs. And they've measured astral projections. They get people to go out, and when they're in a certain place, like it's usually in a lab sort of environment, they'll create flutters in the eyes, and they can actually track that back in the physical body. And then you'll ask them sort of off screen what they did when they were doing this, when this eye thing triggered. And like they could be shuffling cards, or they could be talking about dogs or something. And the person had to confirm what they were seeing at this time of the triggering. There's also all sorts of experiments that have proven all this weird spiritual stuff. The Akashic records, it's proven. The aura is proven. The only thing I'm unaware of that's maybe somewhere proven, I haven't found it, is the Merkaba field. I've never seen any studies on that one.
Well, Merkaba fields, just generally speaking, are directly connected to an aura. It just has to do with the toroidal flow patterns of energy. So the aura itself and the chakras represent the inside compression zones of the torus, whereas the outer fields would be more the Merkaba energies, and that would be your outreaching, like chi energy that's like more diffuse off of the body, but everything has it.
Yeah.
So I mean,
I would say
it's a little anecdotal, I suppose, but it's directly related to the aura and the outer field.
It's that geometry, though.
Yeah.
It's the outer shell of the aura, but it's the geometry that makes it the vehicle.
So here was an interesting one that I saw not too long ago. It was they had these people that were in comas for a long period of time, and they were tracking their brain function the whole entire time, more or less. And they had, for an extended period of time, shown, no sort of conscious function.
Mhm.
And then they were taken off of life support and remained on the scans. And the body passed away, and then the brain went into a normal shutdown pattern. Okay, like anybody would have experienced, coma or not. But what was interesting in the coma patients was that several minutes after they had passed and the brain had went into their shutdown mode, the consciousness came back for the first time since they've been in the coma. The consciousness came back first in a spike, but then it explodes, for like 3 or 4 minutes, and then it starts to taper off again. And then, the consciousness goes, into the normal death cycle at that point. But they can't really explain why the consciousness comes back. And they said that when they actually looked at the parts of the brain that were firing, there was every single type of living function, cognitive living function, in play during those times. The same as somebody that's being active, walking around, talking to somebody, seeing things, reacting to it. And they defined it almost as like a reconciliation of the consciousness and the brain in the dying process. Like there had to be this reconciliation since it was absent, before it kind of nodded off and then returned back to where it went. So it was kind of interesting because, again, those signals hadn't been present in that person all along. So, and it came back. So, and there's no trauma or brain damage necessarily to these people. They're just in a coma, so they really couldn't explain where the consciousness was or why it came back, but it does. And it was in every single test that they did.
Wow.
So, I found that to be pretty remarkable.
The data that they were showing, is that only the data from the people who completely died after? Or is it?
It was all under the same circumstances.
Right.
They were,
A lot of people went
on a Glasgow scale, they were a 0,
Right.
and, then they were taken off of life support and then underwent the phase of dying and then this return of consciousness and then the departure of consciousness. It was observed across the board.
Well, I've said for a while, maybe not on here, but comas are states where the consciousness is deciding whether it wants to continue living or not. So in a sense, it's like it's the astral body just left, the consciousness left, and that stage can appear to last for decades in some cases. People will come back speaking new languages and have new abilities. Like they can play piano and all this sort of mad stuff.
Right, the consciousness, it could be like one of those timeline shifts sort of deals that you talk about where the consciousness just up and leaves and enters into something else or just a state of rest, but then comes back and checks on itself every so often.
Yeah. If you look at that in the data you're talking about, if they've left using their astral body, the astral body has to go back to the body to follow its own thread back to higher source consciousness. So that would explain the spike.
Right. Yeah, it's right. That's sort of right. That's what I was saying about considering that like a reconciliation.
Yeah.
It's just like, I guess, a process that has to be undergone between the consciousness body connection.
Have you ever seen the studies on multiple personality disorders and consciousness? They know for a fact that consciousness is not a localized phenomenon.
Mm.
And not all cases of diagnosed multiple personality disorders are a genuine case of two different people having access to that body. But in the ones that do, the DNA completely rewrites itself. So it's just another interesting point on the whole DNA consciousness journey. They know it's not local. They know it's not in the mind, is my point.
Mm.
Yeah.
Man, that multiple personality shit's gotta suck. What if one's gay and then one's like a super Christian and then like you're flipping in between sex or something? I don't know, man. It'd just be fucked up.
Right. It would be really bad if that switch gets flipped at the wrong time.
Yeah.
There is kind of a film on that, actually.
They get a film on it?
They're not sexually like gay and straight, and they're not different genders, but there's two different people, and this doctor tries to like create a drug or something to stop one personality, and it becomes this battle, almost a lawful battle about which consciousness has the right to have that body.
Oh, wow.
It's a film. I can't remember the name of it, but it's an
Like
interesting.
the Exorcist or something, where they get rid of one.
Me,
No.
myself, and Irene.
I'll send you a name for it at some point. It's an interesting thing to think about. Like, what if you're actually inhabiting two people? You know, who has the right to the body?
Oh, man.
Yeah, I don't want to touch that one with a stick.
Okay. I have no limits. I really don't. I don't care about laws.
I'm just saying, which one has the right to the body? Like, I ain't getting involved in that crisis. Like, that sounds like their problem. Like,
Oh, man.
oh, man, that was punny.
As was written in the Hitchhiker's Guide, it's SEP, somebody else's problem.
Mm-hmm.
Oh.
That's it.
But yeah, consciousness is a bloody fascinating thing. It's insanely complicated. But
And
anyway.
I happen to agree. It's non-local, but it feels like it is, and that's the trick.
Yeah.
That's the trick. Is that
Yeah.
you know, and it's a crazier trick than you think, because not only is it non-local, right, and you feel like consciousness is in your head. The only reason consciousness feels like it's in your head is because that's where most of your senses are.
Yeah.
Like,
Okay.
Absorbed from. So to have your to have accurate perception in 3 dimensions, you need to have this directional sense, which means you have to have a point of reference. So the head is more or less the chosen point of reference for these sensory inputs to like consolidate, because your ears, your nose, your mouth, and your eyes are all on your head, and the rest is just your, whether or not, you're injured or not, more or less.
Huh.
That's sort of what it boils down to. And, therefore it gives this perception like your consciousness is in your head, when in fact your consciousness, if you wanted to think about it in a local situation, is actually running all throughout all of your entire neurological system, is where it kind of emanates and exists as an antenna from.
Yeah.
So it's just kind of crazy that's how that goes. It's a trick, just because this is your face in your head is your point of reference of your environment.
Well, if you take it back a couple of days ago, you did that thing on field shapes, right? So if you imagine it like you have this material world and the immaterial world, and you put that energy pattern on top of this, you've got the vortex from one that creates the shadow or the reflection of the other. And we know from like the eyeballs, your brain is actually seeing things upside down. So it's a literal vortexial mirror that you're seeing. It's just we translate it so it looks like everything is upright.
Right. Well, not only is it upside down, but you got to remember the image is being transferred from your left eye to your right brain, your right eye to your left brain.
Yeah, just to complicate things, throw it in there.
It's crisscrossed and upside down.
Yeah.
Which makes real sense when you think about toroidal motion, because a torus is both inside out and right side in at the same time, and it's the same thing with your vision.
Yeah,
I know. Don't think about this stuff too much; your brain starts to hurt.
Yeah, it's doing that now.
Once you get it, though, you just get it. Everybody, there's just certain things that just click. It's like the third eye stuff. You can see things in your mind. Not everybody can. But once you learn to do it, you can't turn it off. It's just there. And all we're doing in life is going through a series of learning this kind of stuff. But anyway, it's all a mirror. There we go. Red rum.
Yeah. Or, trust your gut, follow your heart, and let your mind be the slave to those two things. That's sort of what it comes down to, because the mind will try to rationalize yourself out of every good thing that could potentially happen. It's really true. That's the defense mechanism of it all.
We overthink things.
So when you follow your gut, you listen to your heart, and you convince your brain that that's what you're going to do, then things start to work in a more equalized fashion, so to speak.
Okay.
That's what I'd like to see people doing that a lot more. Because discernment is a big thing. It's a big part of evolution. Learning to feel when things are wrong. That's the main thing. Again, you said it yourself. It comes down to the gut. Trust that. If something feels off, don't question it. Just leave.
Yeah, well, your mind is funny because it's only really concerned with self-preservation. Yeah. So when something goes against self-preservation, right or wrong, it'll try to convince you out of it. So.
Yeah. The brain will tell you, okay, there's something off here, we should leave. But then your thinking mind says, we need to find proof in this. Just like it's fighting itself all the time.
All the time.
I wanted to thank everybody for watching today. If you like this kind of content, we do a live show every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday right here on YouTube. 2 p.m. Pacific Standard Time on the main channel. The link will be in the description. Please join us, get in the chat, and have some fun. With all that said, hit the music.
The old man will. The old man will. The old man will. The old man builds. The old man builds is broken in the head. People not seeing reality has put them in the red. Where conscious and spirituality restricted from the norm and replaced with the ignorance of basic magnetic form. The geometry of God keeps running through his head. That's what makes old man builds broken in the head. The old man builds. The old man builds. Spheres of destiny are spinning in his mind, making him travel back and forth in time, battling the establishment for just a little recognition. Has him forcing the world to understand his premonition. That world will have all the technology in the end, even if it means his life will fail to instead. The old man builds. old man builds. The old man builds. The old